flowstudy.co. The Flow Study site should open. If it doesn't, go to www.google.com. Enter flowstudy.co in the Google search engine. Once the Flow Study site opens up, then select St. Kitts and Nevis from the list of countries. Step 3. Choose Get Started. Step 4. Click on Login. Step 5. Enter the email address provided by the school, which will be your child's name. For example, Jennifer.Students.edu.kn. Enter the password given, which is study skn, capital S, common TUDY, capital SKN. Select the child's education level. You're in.
I'm Calabarge. Join me weekdays at 7 p.m. for Zeliza's evening newscast. We'll let you know what's happening in your community.
Extreme sadness and feelings of despair could be some of the things people are noticing in themselves during this unusual time. Pay specific attention to see if you have feelings of discouragement, hopelessness, irritability, difficulty concentrating, and disruptions in eating and sleeping habits. Pay attention to your emotions and talk to someone if they are feeling overwhelming. Focus on positive messages that you get from your environment. Listen to uplifting music, stories, or news items. Distract your thoughts by doing something like reading a book, doing a puzzle, coloring, or playing a game. Humor helps to lift moods. Watch a comedy or have a good laugh with friends. Remember your own strengths. What are some positive things that have helped you feel better in the past? Remember, if you have tried everything and overwhelming feelings of sadness still persist, reach out for professional help. This message comes to you from the St. Kitts Mental Health Association.
Is on.
Heather, let me call you back. I am going to be up here right now. Let me call you back. Good afternoon and welcome to the National Emergency Operations Center COVID-19 Daily Briefing for the 19th of May, 2020. I am Les Roy Williams. We thank you very much for joining us for today's daily briefing, where we continue to update you on what is happening in the Federation with respect to the management of the COVID-19 pandemic. I say a warm welcome to those of you who are joining us in the diaspora. I also recognize among us the Honorable Wendy Phipps, Minister of State with responsibility for health. We also have the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Laws, and the Medical Chief of Staff, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson. We also have with us Ms. Jeanne Williams, who is the Director of the Office of Intellectual Property. And we also have Mr. Abdias Samuel, who is Chair of the COVID-19 National Task Force, and Superintendent Henry, Divisional Commander for District A. I would like to start the daily briefing off by inviting Ms. Jeanne Williams, Director of the Office of Intellectual Property, to address us. Ms. Williams.
Good afternoon, all, and I wish to record my thanks to the NEOC for the invitation to present briefly on the Intellectual Property Office and our response to COVID-19. However, before I get into our office's COVID response, I've been asked by the NEOC to first explain what is intellectual property and what our office does. We often think about things like houses, cars, and phones when we hear the word property. But intellectual property refers to expressed or tangible products of a person's intellect, or put another way, the creations of someone's mind. So, for example, while property law regulates issues such as who owns and can sell a house, intellectual property law is concerned with who owns and can sell the plan of an architect who used his intellect to design and lay out how the house is to be built. This plan is separate and distinct property from the house, and as a tangible or expressed product of the architect's mind or intellect, that plan is intellectual property, protectable by law. Now, other simple examples of intellectual property include music, speeches, manuals, secret recipes, inventions, vaccines, photographs, computer software, and a host of other material that has been created using someone's intellect. Like regular property, if IP gets into the hands of someone who is not authorized to use it, it could deprive the creator of the opportunity to reap from his work. By law, a tenant who moves into a house without the permission of the landlord is no different than a person who sells photocopies of books without permission. During this period of lockdowns and curfews, some of us have found our inner Calypsonian, Mr. Williams, or some other creative outlets, and IP rules exist to help us protect and enable us to benefit and be acknowledged for the work that we create. Now, our office operates under the Ministry of Justice and Legal Affairs, and our three main functions are registering intellectual property rights where applicable, raising public awareness on the different forms of intellectual property such as copyrights and trademarks or patents and trade secrets, and thirdly, overseeing the legal framework surrounding the use and control of intellectual property. The majority of our office's work, however, concerns registration of trademarks. A trademark is a visual sign that differentiates one good from another, and here we see on this slide 4 popular marks that are registered here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Trademarks could be words, numbers, image art, colors, or a combination, or any or all of those. So for example, if I were to place 2 bottles of brown soda here without labels, how could we tell which one is Coke and which one is Pepsi without tasting them? Well, we can tell by the color of the bottle or the can, the label or the name, and those features are examples of trademarks. Now, in just a bit of statistics here, in 2018, the Aon and Ponemon Institute looked at the top 500 companies trading on the American Stock Exchange and found that 87% of the assets was intellectual property, rather than physical assets such as land and cash. Could change, please? The shift in major corporations' focus on creating and growing IP may help to explain why there are currently over 6,000 active trademarks registered or seeking registration in St. Kitts and Nevis, and why 98% of our applicants are owners of these marks are businesses and individuals who are resident overseas in countries such as China, United States, Europe, and Canada. But because trademarks have to be registered in every jurisdiction that protection is desired, applications are made here in St. Kitts and Nevis when countries seek global protection. Now, registering a mark means it gives the owner the right to take action against someone who uses his mark without permission. So, for example, if someone produces counterfeit goods and puts another person's trademark on it, without registration, in such a case, the trademark owner has very little legal basis to stand on. Now, how does all of this fit into COVID-19? Now, with limited operations occurring all over the world due to this pandemic, we have seen a decrease in the number of applications since April 2020. Nonetheless, our office continues to work, and we also continue our appeals to our own residents and citizens to avail themselves of the protection of their brands and their creativity through the intellectual property framework. When we receive an application in office, our trademark files are digitally uploaded into our electronic database, and this has allowed us access to process applications remotely from home since the COVID-19 induced restrictions. Our office has maintained communication with users primarily through email, telephone, our website, and social media. Therefore, because we have been working effectively remotely, it has only been necessary for the office to open twice weekly on Tuesdays and Fridays to allow persons to submit applications, conduct searches into the register of trademarks, make payments, and for the staff to upload the paper applications. Since, unfortunately, we are not able to receive applications online as yet. However, we have been working assiduously long before COVID-19 to make the legislative and administrative changes that would be necessary to achieve our goal of making our office the first fully electronic office under the Ministry of Justice and Legal Affairs. Clearly, COVID-19 has accelerated our efforts, and we look forward to making announcements in relation to online payments, online searches, and online submission of applications in the near future. Since the COVID-19 restrictions, our office has, 1, through the Bar Association and our email database, communicated to our users of our office office hours and work mechanisms. 2, we have granted a 6-week extension to time-sensitive applications that would have or will lapse during our period of state of emergency. 3, continued to conduct training sessions for groups through Zoom. Last week, we were able to conduct an introduction to IP training for staff at the Inland Revenue Department, and we attempted to have one with the entrepreneurship class at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College, but unfortunately there were connectivity issues, but we will continue trying. Fourthly, all employees have been issued with disinfecting wipes and hand sanitizer, and entry into the office is prohibited for persons who are not wearing masks. And finally, we have instituted a shift system where one team works in the office on one day and another on the second. All persons remain on call, however, and report if necessary outside of the days that are open to the public. Having heard the happy news of recovered cases, we will increase the number of days and in-office work in using the shift system from next week, depending on the announcement of the Prime Minister on which days will be partial. Now, COVID-19 has certainly disrupted our norm, but one of the significant things that it is forcing us to do is to adapt to survive. While many of us have lost jobs or income and think of new and innovative ways to ply new or existing trades, I urge each of us to think of the products of your skill and your intellect as valuable property. So, for example, if you find yourself during this period writing music or working on an app or a book that you've always procrastinated on, feel free to contact us for information on how to protect your copyright. If you are making hand sanitizer or some other product or service, contact us for information on how to protect your trademarks, such as your logo or your slogan, so that if someone else starts using it or makes something too close to it, you will know if you are able to take action to stop them. You do not have to be as big as Starbucks or Amazon to protect your intellectual property. Consider protection like an insurance policy. Even though your property or business may be small, if something happened to it, I'm sure you would be glad if you had protected it. IP is way too vast and way too detailed for me to do it justice within the forum and time constraints today. But we hope that the general public at least walks away with a curiosity and deeper awareness that the way we think of our valuable assets and income generation is changing, and opportunities are ripe for persons of all economic and educational backgrounds if we just adjust our mindset to see our intellect and our skills as a vehicle towards economic diversification, wealth creation, and social reconstruction, especially in the COVID and post-COVID era. Our contact information is listed, and we submit our website as a resource for persons interested in learning more about IP. The information on the website is tailored specifically to St. Kitts and Nevis, so you do not have to wonder if what is on the website is relevant to you here. Our office is still available to the public, and if there is any group, person, or institution in St. Kitts and Nevis who is interested in learning more about intellectual property and how it applies to their work or plans, please feel free to reach out to us, and we can organize virtual training or in-person training once proper social distancing protocols can be observed. We look forward to continuing serving you to, as our office slogan says, fuel innovation and creativity for national prosperity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jihan. I now invite Superintendent Cromwell Henry, Divisional Commander for District A, to address us. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and a pleasant good afternoon to all. Over the last 24 hours, police have made 2 arrests for persons who were in breach of the curfew order. This brings the total arrests to date to 140. It is important to note that hearing for these matters at the Bastia Magistrate Court is scheduled to commence on June 8th. So persons who were formally charged, you will be notified by the police, and the hearings will commence on June 8th, when the court would schedule throughout the rest of the month. It is worth repeating our appeal for persons to abide by the shelter-in-place order and stay at your residence during the period of curfew. Other than persons exempted under the regulations, any person to be out during the curfew period must be granted permission in writing, unless, of course, you are out in cases of emergency. In such cases, you are required to call the nearest police station to inform the police of your emergency and your need to be out. The curfew begins at 8:01 p.m. nightly and ends at 4:59 a.m. the following day. We appeal to persons working on behalf of political parties to respect each side's property. Do not engage in the removal or defacing of property mounted in public spaces. The police will enforce the law if persons are found in violation. We remind you also of the requirement under the regulations to observe social distancing protocols, that is, to maintain a distance of 6 feet apart from persons next to you, and the wearing of masks when out in public. You're asked to note that these regulations have not been relaxed, and the police have been directed to enforce the law once persons are found violating. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. I would now call on our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Laws, to give us the Health Emergency Operations Center COVID-19 situation report. Dr. Laws.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and a pleasant good afternoon to everyone. I'm going to be providing you the situation report for today, May 19th. And so based on the World Health Organization, there are 4,731,458 confirmed cases of COVID-19 to date, and there are almost 317,000 deaths. In the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, to date we have sampled and tested 391 persons, 376 of which have returned negative. We've received 15 samples returned positive, and as you are aware, we've had 15 confirmed cases. Today we have 0 results pending. And yesterday I would have announced that we have, yesterday I think we would have announced that we have 15 cases confirmed recovered. So our 15 cases have recovered. They have all recovered. 11 in St. Kitts, 4 in Nevis. Now, in terms of what's happening in our quarantine sites, we have 3 persons to date in quarantine, and 814 persons would have been released from quarantine. Now, for today's bulletin, COVID-19 bulletin, we are going to be looking at the topic COVID-19 and vitamin D. Now, scientists at the Northwestern University are presently investigating the link between vitamin D and COVID-19. So these scientists are looking at data from hospitals and clinics in the East, meaning China, South Korea, Iran, and clinics in Europe, namely Italy, Spain, France, Germany, United Kingdom, and even North America. And they noted that patients from countries with high COVID-19 death rates, like Italy and Spain and the United Kingdom, these patients had lower levels of vitamin D compared with patients in countries that were not as severely affected. So what they're saying is that there's a correlation between vitamin D deficiency and COVID-19 mortality. So there's a strong correlation between persons having low levels of vitamin D and having a cytokine storm. So you're going to ask, what is a cytokine storm? This is really a condition marked by hyperinflammatory. It's a hyperinflammatory condition whereby your immune system is hyperactive or it's overactive. Now, this situation, cytokine storm situation, is one in which there's an overreaction of your immune system. There's an increase in production of cytokines, which are little proteins floating around in the blood, and these can severely damage your lungs, leading to acute respiratory distress syndrome, and they can also cause damage to other organs like your kidneys and can result in death. Vitamin D enhances our innate immune system, which is responsible for our ability to fight off infections. Vitamin D has been shown to modulate the white blood cells in our blood and inflammation-producing chemicals like cytokines. And these form a part of our immune response to germs like viruses that come into our bodies. Vitamin D prevents our immune system from becoming dangerously overactive. So now these studies have shown an association between vitamin D and COVID-19, but not necessarily a causative link. So in other words, more research is required to explore this association. In other words, based on our knowledge at this time, we cannot draw the conclusion that taking vitamin D is going to prevent you getting COVID-19. So now, how do you tap up on your vitamin D levels? So there are 3 ways in which you can increase your vitamin D levels. One, through sunlight, or through eating foods that are rich in vitamin D, or through taking supplements. So let's talk about sunlight. Vitamin D is created when cholesterol in our skin is converted by direct sunlight. However, I need to warn you that if you stay in the sun for prolonged periods of time, especially the midday sun, you can increase your risk of developing skin cancer. And so you need to be reminded that there is a delicate line between balancing the beneficial effects of sunlight exposure while avoiding its damaging effects. Diet. Only a handful of foods contain vitamin D, and such foods include salmon, mackerel, herring, sardines, red meat, and even eggs. With that said, you would need to eat quite a bit of these foods to get enough vitamin D. Supplements. Vitamin D is also available through supplementation. And so you can walk into your nearby pharmacy and you can ask your favorite pharmacist to recommend a good brand of vitamin D. Studies show that vitamin D supplementation is safe and it protects against lung infections overall. In conclusion, having healthy levels of vitamin D can protect patients against the severe complications of COVID-19, including death. I repeat, having healthy levels of vitamin D can protect patients against the severe complications of COVID-19, including death. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Laws, for that report, the importance of vitamin D in our diets. I now invite Mr. Abdia Samuel, Chair of the COVID-19 National Task Force, to address us. Mr. Samuel.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for joining us this good afternoon. And as we celebrate our 50th day of activation, that's 5-0. I want to thank everybody who has been joining us consistently. I know there are some persons who tell me they make sure they watch every day. So thank you for staying tuned and being educated by a group of professional individuals, and thank you to Ms. Jehan Williams for such a wonderful presentation. Yes, John James, let's go. All right, so we're starting today with my presentations again. I'm not turning back, right? So I'm staying there with my presentations. All right. So Pat, there at the cable, I hope you're watching. Yeah, you started the movement. All right. So we look at the calls and we see that we continue with the 311 calls, 911, the St. Kitts NEOC, and the EOC on Nevis. The Compliance Task Force continues to do its work with visiting a total of 70 business places today. Next slide, please. Wonderful. Right. And we continue again to encourage businesses to ensure compliance with the regulation SRNO 16 of 2020, the Emergency Powers COVID-19 number 7. I want to go back, just if we can go back, Dungeon, great. There you will see our team carrying out the educational and awareness campaigns. You will see the engagement of buses, and this is why we are able to now begin to curb the behavioral change that is required for us to live in this new norm. And it's very important. So these are the our professionals who go out there every day to ensure the business places, enterprises, our public transportation is doing the best to comply with the regulation. This is part of our success that we have seen thus far. Again, we continue to show the particulars in which we see the improvement, and out of the 70 business places, you look at the numbers, 52 business places looked at the adherent to the 6 feet distancing. And one of the things I want to emphasize again is that 6 feet distance is just not side by side or front and back. It's a combination of all, north, east, south, west. So when you're calculating the 6 feet distance, make sure you take the 4 cardinal points in particular, or if we can go to layman terms, left and right, front and rear. It's important that you do so to maintain your safety distances. Again, the sanitizing of doorknobs and hands upon entry. One time you see it fluctuate where persons, some business places in certain areas are doing a good job. Another time there are some businesses that need to continue to be encouraged. I don't even want to touch the liquor. I never drink none in my life yet, so I will encourage persons not to drink any. Well, that's why they don't watch me like that, yes? All right, good. The personal hygiene. We continue to see good practices in our personal hygiene, and it's very important. I was listening to a report that was done by a doctor in the United States, and he said that a combination of all, wearing a mask, the distancing, and the hygiene protocol increases the opportunity of you not becoming infected by the virus. So that is critically important that we practice all of these things. We are aware that the hurricane season is among us, is with us. It will begin officially on the 1st of June. So with that, every afternoon, I'm going to bring you some tips for you to start to prepare for the hurricane season. Traditionally, and let's be realistic, we wait until we say, listen, it's going to impact us within the next 24 hours for us to start to prepare. And that is not a good practice. That's the reality with that. So I want to encourage you to, one, prepare your home. How do you prepare your home? One, make sure if you don't have a generator, attempt to get one. And if you have a generator, ensure that when you're operating your generator is operated on the outside to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning. Two, if you own a vehicle, or if due to work you have been assigned a vehicle, please ensure that the gas or diesel tank is filled. And also, if you have a garage, park your vehicle in the garage. We know the common one. Cover your windows with hurricane shutters or plywood. That is very important for us to do, to ensure that you don't have to go up one of the hardware stores to change your glass. Or if you have louvers, you can see the damage that a flying projectile can have on your louvers. That's aluminum louvers. Secure objects that are outdoors and bring them inside. So if you know you have something on the outside that can be lifted by the wind speed, please bring it to the inside and secure it. As we continue to say all the time, please ensure that all the trees and shrubs around your house are trimmed. So those are your hurricane tips for today. I also want to acknowledge and give special thanks to the Sandy Point Benevolent Society. That is a non-profit organization which bears as its mantra, we give back so others can move forward. It states, this is a moment in time whenever you feel bound to step up and act. Change is now more than a metaphor. Change is here. We know the individual and family commitments all too well. We accept the boundaries that our leaders put in place. As an organization, we became restless as we simply wanted to help. We wanted to give to country, to St. Kitts and Nevis. In response to our duty to country during this pandemic, we thought it best to donate personal protective equipment, otherwise known as PPEs, test kits, gloves, and masks. We began raising funds. Unfortunately, procuring these items for donation were met with some unforeseen challenges. We hope to deliver on these PPE commitments in the near future. Instead, we chose one idea, which was championed by Jean Herbert and Ambassador Thelma Philip Brown, to support college students stranded in the U.S. With the able contribution of the SPBS and other well-wishers like Grenville Renford, Steve Phillip, and Arthur Martin, we made timely monetary contribution to 17 students. Our members felt blessed to connect directly with the students and learn about their pursuits and their heritage. It was essential that we step up at this moment, and all we ask of the student is to simply to pay it forward. We are not in this alone. Other groups and individuals have stepped up. We particularly want to point out Dr. Hannah Gishard, a robust partner with SPBS, who gave generously to support additional students as well. Collectively, we deliver support to more than 25 students and have inspired other organizations to participate in this effort. We encourage citizens at home or abroad in good economic standing or charitable mind to consider similar assistance for persons in need. We pray for our beloved Federation daily, and in particular, the hard-working efforts of the National COVID Task Force and all of our essential workers. We hope that our Federation, as well as a resident here in the USA, can return to some normalcy, resulting in an easing of the burden caused by this pandemic. continue to be safe as we ride through this storm. Dr. Stuart Williams, President, SPBS US Chapter. I also want to thank, which I did already, but I wish to do so again, Dina Kosick from New Orleans, USA, who sent 15 pizzas to the NEOC today. Thank you, Dina. Dina was actually here in St. Kitts and Nevis for 9 weeks as a result of being unable to return home after our borders were closed. Dina stated that, dear Mr. Samuel, I would like to send you and the NEOC a very big thank you for your amazing leadership throughout our stay here on your beautiful island of St. Kitts. I enjoyed listening to you and your colleagues on the ZIZ daily broadcast while we were there. Everyone did a fabulous job in keeping your people and us visitors informed on the current local situation during this pandemic time. They were here, and the lady Dina too, at the Christoph Marino. And unfortunately, they said they would have left, but they keep St. Kitts and Nevis dear to their heart. Tomorrow, for our program, we look forward to hearing from the National Housing Corporation and from Mr. Chad Allen on behalf of the Bankers and Financial Services Association. Those are our look forward for tomorrow. So thank you for listening, and we look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel. I would like to inform you that there are no questions. It means then that we are seeing a reduction in the questions, which I don't know if people run out of questions, or we are doing such an effective job in answering the questions that nothing comes to the imagination in terms of questions with respect to the COVID-19 management here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We are now told that we have 0 cases, but 0 cases doesn't mean that there are no questions. But I want to thank you today for tuning in to our briefing. I want to thank Ms. Jihan Williams, Director of the Office of Intellectual Property. And one might ask, why a presentation from the Office of Intellectual Property? But if you were listening, you would understand why. Superintendent Cromwell Henry, Divisional Commander for District A, for his presentation. Our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Laws, who has become quite expert now on the slides and the PowerPoint. She no longer presents, just like that. She uses the charts and so on. And Mr. Abdias Samuel, who is, now is follow suit, following the Chief Medical Officer by also using slides. Very good indeed. We are lifting the bar. And thank you very much to Mrs. Michelle Christmas Jacob for her sign language service that she provides to us each day. Quite remarkable. Tomorrow we'll be back with another daily briefing at 5 p.m. and Mr. Samuel would have already announced to you some people who will be on the brief. See you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Thank you for joining us. I am Les Roy Williams.
Protect yourself from the novel coronavirus. Wash your hands thoroughly and frequently for at least 20 seconds each time. Avoid shaking hands and touching your face with unclean hands. If you have to cough or sneeze, do so into your flexed elbow or a paper towel and then dispose of it. Keep a distance of 3 feet away from anyone with the cold or flu-like symptoms. Boost your immune system with vitamins, drink plenty of water, and get adequate rest. Visit your doctor, the nearest hospital, or health center if you or a family member becomes ill. A message from the Ministry of Health and the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA.
We got this. Yeah. How to make it. We have no other choice but to be strong.
We're gonna make it.
I am a voice of hope and I just wanna let you know that I believe in our strength as a people and the promise of a bright tomorrow. And I
Want you to believe on trust.
nobody's watching over us, and I believe if we all come together now, everything will be alright.
We only press on.
Strength to the bone and the ties around each generation.
Unite and be one, the fight will be won.
Come on, Caribbean.
Don't worry about the circumstances. It's just about the fears and the madness. Together we will take our chance at life and conquer it. Don't worry about the circumstances. It's just about the fears and the madness. Together we will take our chance at life. We got this. We got this. We got I'm sure we can live from people.
It's a fight and we must all be shared. I can't believe this day has come.
For our sake we must keep distance. Everyone looking out for the neighbor. Islands in the Caribbean sun.
It's time to be strong, the battle is on.
And the future of each generation. Every daughter and son united and one.
Sing on, Caribbean.
Don't worry about the circumstances. It's just about the fears and the madness. Together we will take our chance at life and conquer it. Don't worry about the circumstances. It's just about the fears and the madness. Together we will take our chance at life. We got
is on. Is on.
Many people's income has been severely reduced as a result of the pandemic. There are real concerns about taking care of self and family in this current financial climate. In order to help to manage the stress and anxiety related to financial concerns, focus on gathering information. What concessions being offered by banks and businesses could I rely on to help me? Prioritizing. What bills must be paid first? Which ones could be deferred until a later time? Which ones could be negotiated? Brainstorming. What other activity could bring in an income at this time? Remember, financial concerns are very real and could lead to distress and worry if they are left unchecked. Finding a way to problem solve helps to reduce the stress and anxiety that come with financial woes. This message comes to you from the St. Kitts Mental Health Association.
To avoid getting the coronavirus, remember to wash your hands thoroughly and frequently before and after preparing food, after using the toilet or changing a diaper for a baby, sick person, or the elderly, after blowing your nose, and after leaving large gatherings or moving away from persons who appear ill. Encourage others to wash their hands and also use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer of 60 to 70% solution. Stay away from events having large gatherings of people. You can expose yourself to more possible infections in large groups. Also, avoid sharing cutlery, cups, glassware, etc. with others. Viruses can linger on these items and may be transferred this way. Avoid shaking and holding hands, and hugging or keeping an infected person in close proximity. This is a message from the Ministry of Health and the National Emergency Management Agency.